Hello, Mgtows. Hello, man. Let me see if my sound's working. Hello, Mgtows. Yeah, I guess it's working. I can turn that off now and bring everything up, kind of adjust my screen. It's a little bit of a process, but it's okay. Hello, people. Megatons. Ooh, megatons. Mgtows. That's what I Mgtows. I think that's. Hello, Chewy. Hello, everybody that's coming in and everybody that's going to be here. If I forget to mention your name, I'm sorry. I'm getting used to this new screen. I don't know why it's doing that. It just self readjusts itself when it feels like now, and it makes me crazy. So hello, man. Hello. It's Wednesday night. No one was on, and I was looking for a podcast, and I couldn't find a podcast. So I guess I'd do a podcast myself. Hello, Ken. So the the topic today, gender politics, violence, and Mgtow. I was reading an article earlier, and it just got me interested in the thought of what do we do when we mix politics with gender dynamics, and when we see the incels acting like they're doing, and we see the violence that comes from that, and the word from what scares me about the whole thing is there's been many articles written about gender influences in politics and violence, which includes examples of terrorism. Some countries you'll see genocide and war, gender, how it uncovers the difference between men, women, and other people too. There's masculine things that go around along with being a man. No one will ever say that there's not the feminine to being a lady, a woman, and the masculine to being a man. How gender is interpreted in politics and violence, and people have to recognize that the political overtones of what happens here. We're going to get kickback, and we're going to get backlash from anytime the incels do anything. They're going to say, oh, look at those MGTOWs, they're all crazy and stuff like that. But incels are very much different. It's a very much different product. In my thoughts on this is when we interact, the incels that will get violent and the politics that happens in Mgtow, the politics that came in, the alt-right came in, the gender dynamics and the fluidity of those things, and the social positions that people take in politics. Women take a different social position, men take a social position that's a little bit different, and women generally marginalize men as subordinates or something like that. It's interesting how it plays out, but when we get the incels that can't take one more day of life and they decide to get violent, the interpretation of terrorism is when you do a violent act like that under political influences. They're not passive acts. There's political violence and power and agency involved in these things, and for innocent people and the children and the people, the innocents, and collateral damage and stuff like that happens. I think we owe them an explanation, but when it does happen, it's very sad and everything. But sooner or later, what's going to happen here, if Mgtow is viewed as politically violent because of the incels, they will label us as terrorists. Yes, they will. And that's my thought on that. And I just wanted to come back and say hello to everybody that may be in. Oops, I'm not even in my I'm not even in my thing. So hello, Janet. Hello, Chewy. Hello, the 8 people that are watching. Hello, Ken. Hello, Archive. Hello, everybody. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about the violence that the incels portray, and if it's attached to political means and everything. It's very hello, Aware Rabbit. It's very it's very likely that sooner or later someone will call Mgtow or the incel group an active terrorist group, or they will be labeled a hate group and a terrorist group. And that's very likely, seeing the definition of that sort of senseless violence that they're sort of pushed to. And I'm totally empathetic with the incels and everything, because in life, if there's nothing to live for, and you can't find your worth, your value inside yourself without validating it through an outside force of having a woman in your life. I'm truly empathetic with their position on that, but it has really nothing to do with Mgtow. But if this thing keeps going the way it is, and usually we see one or two of these MGTOWs, these incels now popping off a year and just exploding and saying life isn't worth living, and I might as well rage out. Raging out is sort of an institution of MGTOW. It's when you're done, when you're had, when your back's up against a wall, when you can't push another, when you're on your knees, when everything's gone wrong in life, and marriage or jobs or just everything in life has let you down, and you get to that place where you start thinking Mgtow, it's a horrible place to be sometimes. And what I suggest every Mgtow to do is fight back. Pick that enemy out there and fight back, and get yourself back on your feet, and turn all that hate, turn all that rage, turn all that gender dysphoria, or whatever it is, that that politicalized gender dynamics. The gender dynamics is the right word, that you're so sick of. And I know everybody wishes there was a more pleasant place to live in besides the modern femtopia that we have, but that's not going to happen. So the honest answer is just start digging this Mgtow thing and get along with yourself, and start if you can spend a couple of days with yourself and get along with yourself, your trip will be a lot easier. I made these are my home brews, prune juice. What you drinking? These are ginger. It's got wheat ginger, it's got barley, and it's got a slight a hoppy sort of IPA thing going on. They're I made them. I make them now. I don't buy them from the government and give the government $1 on every one I drink. So I make them at home for about 40-50 cents a bottle, and that's what I do. That's what I'm drinking. And it's tasty and it's fresh, and I don't have to worry about hormones in it. It does sound refreshing, doesn't it? Yeah, try that. Try a little ginger. If you just start making out some ginger ale even at home, and bottle it, take a few old beer barrels and make some ginger ale, and get some fresh ginger and try it and see it. Oh, well, you'll notice a taste, and then you get to start adding hops and barleys and whatever you want to it, or make a malt beverage if you want, or make a sugar beverage if you want. And I have a thing. I'm going to make a big thing of pop, so I can put pop in the refrigerator and have pop flowing on there. But I have to set it up and clean the tanks and everything before I start boiling down what I want. And that's what I do. So gender dynamics was the topic today, and I just wanted to say hello. We're losing people fast on that. I know Joe starts talking like an egghead, and everybody's like, we don't want egghead Joe. We want we want raging out Joe. But lately on YouTube, you really have to watch what you say, and I'm trying to be careful, and I'm trying to do this thing right, and I'm trying to be okay about this thing, and I think talking about these things, you know, are pertinent, and we can look at them, and we can look at how we think. And the thing is, in wartime, our peace, or terrorism is what we do now, and everybody seems to be at war now. Women and children, and so, transgender and other people are seen as innocent, and men are seen as victim, or men are seen as pretty much the who's the guys that are doing the violence and everything. But that can be more true. I read an article today in the Oxford Encyclopedia of Politics today, and it kind of explained little things, and it started explaining gendercide, and gendercide is when it occurs, it's a targeted or specific gender with a result of men or women whose identity you're not going to know, or non-heteronormatives, or even sexual, whatever they are the subject of discriminatory killing. Now we know that most of the time in war, women aren't targets of that, but there's rape involved with war as the punishment for being with your enemy is rape, and most women at that time, we do know, will capitulate to the aggressors or the whoever's in their area. We've seen this with Germany. We've seen this in France. We've seen this in so many other countries. So after that, rape becomes the chosen form of punishment for soldiers or for armies that which typically seen as the masculine domain. Armies, wartime violence is associated with women in that way, but we're just kind of putting together, now, and we're not in peacetime now. We're in a rather extended war, and we have terrorism. Can women be terrorists too? That's the big question that you can ask: is are they included in the are they included in the whole demographics of wartime of people that are combatants? If you're looking at a combatant, you would look at the men of the society, and you would look at the men between basically 18 and 18. Nowadays, it could be down to 14 or so. Men 14 to say my age or something, and even upwards to my age, could be looked at as a combatant, and understandably so because of violence. But political, when you attach these political realms and these political ideas to what we're seeing with the incel outbreak during a very tumultuous time in our history, the incels, they will be labeled as, if you attach politics and what the incels are doing. So this is why I think it's dangerous to bring politics in Mgtow or start talking about those political issues, because then we get attached to political ideologies and some political demand that we have. And we really, I can't think of a political demand that Mgtow has besides, leave me the F alone. And that's it, just leave me alone, or these things may come true for you too. But the incels seem to have, they want their moment with the GGF, the good girlfriend experience, and that's what they want, and they think they deserve it and everything. So we've seen a little bit of what just kind of bases around on terrorism, and it's their protest against what the violence they think is being portrayed on them. Now, I often wondered how that could be interpreted as violence, but violence comes in a few ways. Violence can come in starvation. Violence can come in with, taking monetary things out of poverty. There's a certain violence in poverty when you force somebody in poverty. If you take their house, if you take their bed, if you take their car, and you left them out in the woods, that would be a very, very violent act to perpetrate. But a lot of governments don't see that, and we start balancing these things up. How some of the hardcore conservatives talk about the poor and everything. They really don't like them, and the rich talk about the poor and everything. But think of the violence that you and society has portrayed on these men and women, mostly men, 86% men, and and that live on the streets, and that's a very violent act. Society in itself has let these people down, and there's some mental health issues. And I watched a good movie last night about how we could be helping in that, and the hospitals could be helping, but the hospitals aren't going to help, and the healthcare administrators aren't going to help now with that homeless problem and the mentally ill. And I think most of it is environmental, or there's infection, or there's there could be, tumors, it could be heart problems, it could be low blood flow. There's a lot of things that could make a person crazy, and act that way. I was watching a guy, I was going through Cleveland today, and I was watching a guy, he had shorts on, no shirt on. He was about my size, maybe bigger. He was a little bigger than me, actually. That means he had a big belly and had big girth and everything. And he was out there just yapping away at every car that went by, yelling some loony thing. I can't remember. I asked my buddy, what is he telling everybody? And then the cars all stopped, and we were like, uh-oh, this is going to get good. And he was out there just, I guess he was homeless or drunk or whatever it happened. He was yelling, Zerma, or something like that to everybody that was. And I felt like calling the authorities and saying, hey, you need to check on, there needs to be a welfare check. But I don't know they do that anymore. And but we're getting off track. We're going way off track with my thoughts about how the society, perpetrates violence on its poor. And maybe some people don't believe that. And we got gender interpretations when we look at that. Women usually have a backdrop. Men don't have a backdrop. What other exits do we give these people besides the thoughts of terrorism, or the thoughts of taking? When you push these people into poverty, did you think that they weren't going to lash out at society and they're going to be passive victims of violence and not lash out? No matter what the individual actor out there and the capacity they have to process social experiences and coping in ways that people cope, some of this violence is going to roll into the better neighborhoods, and they will become the victims of that. Ooh, that is just delicious. You guys should taste one of these. But then again, the gender analytics that goes along with this, and the discussions about sex and gender, and sex refers to a category between male and female, and everything. We'll keep it there for to keep it palatable, and the properties that go along with these things. And there is a certain gender side, and there's a gender side in war and peace. But when we think about these things, it doesn't have to be ethnic. It doesn't have to be basically political or religious. It could be right now what we're seeing is a teetering gender. There's gender dynamics that we're teetering on, and one side seems to be pushing, and the other side seems to be pushing back. And we hear a lot of the thoughts about what if the zombie apocalypse starts, and we'll be right there. Woo, Mgtow, you're gonna go. You're gonna be that survivor and be a survivalist in the zombie apocalypse, and all through that destruction that the groups, you're going to be the one survivor. I don't think I'm going to survive that thing, because I'm just too sick of fighting anymore. I can't do it. I'll just sit out my front porch and just wave to everybody. That's all the people that are doing all the funny things. And yeah, it was quite interesting to me when I started looking down on. I started looking through all the stuff, and the thought popped up that, sooner or later it won't be long, because when they'll put incels and terrorist groups. So what they're pretty much saying, if incels decide to take on a political overtone to them, then they become terrorists when they do these terrorist acts, and then we'll have negligible acts of terrorism and notorious elements, these notorious elements called incels. And right now they've kind of been beating around that, and then they thought about it for 1 minute, and they thought, well, that's pretty stupid armies of incels coming back. But if they do label Mgtow within that group, or the manosphere within the group, in which they pretty do, they'll generalize and say, well, this is the whole manosphere, and the incels will get us labeled as terrorists. And then I think that's how they'll dissipate the manosphere, if true gynocentrism is instituted in our philosophy or our norms, you know. But genocide was, gendercide. I don't mean genocide. Genocide's a mass thing. Gendercide is pretty much what we see. You can look at most books, and you see most of the violence, and most of the violence, the sexual discriminatory killing through wars comes at the cost of men in battle. Single men, most of the time, young men between 20 and or 18 and say 35, mostly will be the victims of these wars that we have going on right now. And that could be classified as a type of gendercide, and we see it that way. Why do men have all the hard jobs? Why do men die at a staggering amount at work? Why is it most first responders are men? All first responders are men. Why is it that only men seem to die in war? When we look at even the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald, 36 souls, all men. I don't think there was a single woman on that. I can't really say that for sure. That was a ore boat, a dangerous ore boat to work on. Why are these things like that? And I ask myself that all the time. And I think Mgtow asks it all the time. Men have all the hard jobs. Men build the buildings. They protect your country in war. There is this subtle undertone that rape is they're trying to link rape as the penalty for women in war. So they're saying rape is equal to death. What rape is, if a woman is raped, and she might as well just she's dead to the world, I suppose. There's a little difference between being raped and being shot with a 50 caliber through the chest, I would say. But that's how the feminine point of view gets skewed a little bit through this whole thing. We've seen these kind of the difference between gendercide and genocide was like Rwanda. Rwanda was a genocide where they just equally destroyed and viciously destroyed each other without consideration. But I would like to look at the stats on that. They give Rwanda as an equal measure of violence towards men and women, but I would like to see the stats on it, because I could probably pretty much say that there was probably about an 80% male death rate during Rwanda. Guatemala was a slight overtone in that, and that. But yeah, that's what I was thinking about today. And I know this is where this little book that I was reading today went down. It went down to rape and wartime situations of gender and hegemonic masculinity, what they call hegemonic masculinity. Now that's a pretty good. You really got to do some thinking when you start using words like hegemonic masculinity and stuff like that. But that was, I think, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, that would go down to wartime rape targets old and young and attractive and unattractive women. It's hegemonic. It's sex without, then there's sexual motives in there and stuff like that. Right, yeah. So the argument was rape was used as a weapon of war, And we can see these things in a lot of different societies. And I think we've seen it during genocide, but and we Germans came into France and stuff like that, which the females there just volunteered their bodies to the German soldiers. So there was no rape involved. You can't rape the willing. And we found that out, which was a lot of the, I don't know what they called the women that they cut their hair off at the end of the war, but far from that, political violence may be an anomaly that that women do participate in it. Now we see with the Antifa groups, and we see with the far right, what do you call them, the alt-righter groups and Antifa. You see a lot of women participate in this kind of back and forth violence that's hinging on something very very violent can break out there. Let me bring my pretty face back up for myself and see who's all in there. Hello, Derek Lee. Hello, Chewbacca. I must get out of my red pill rage, starting ghosting, and be nice to women and hiding my Mgtow views. Ellen, are you going to get out there and start just being nice to women? I think you just, when you get to that point, you just kind of relax and be happy with your Mgtow. And it's not a point of being nice to people, and it's not a point of being mean to people. It's just everybody I meet, I just give a general kind of, you never know when you're going to meet a blue pill guy or a red pill guy or a simp or a white knight or a beggar, or, you know, them things that come unfold only after you start drinking with them, or or you get to know the person. And as for females out there, you just treat everybody with a modest amount of respect, and you put your head down, and that's what we talked about. You get in, you get out, you do your thing, you come home, you do your Mgtow things, and you don't worry about the world. Once you're a Mgtow, you stop worrying about the world, and you just stop worrying about all that's going on out there. But we do have to read the papers and everything, and we do have to take insults. Is SFM pissed? Yeah, thanks, Derek. Is FSM pissed? I think SFN is pissed off at me, and I think he did a mistake the other day, and he blames it on me. I don't know. He won't talk to me, so I don't know what happened during the podcast. I think he was OBSing. There was two SFM things, and that usually indicates, and I didn't catch it, to tell SFM that if you OBS a live stream to another live stream now, and you get that little warning and you don't take it down, they will give you a copyright strike. And I think that's why he got a copyright strike. But he blames me for it, and I had nothing to do with it. And yeah, he made a mistake, I think, and he was OBSing this podcast, and he was putting it on his channel. And when YouTube catches that, they give you a warning. If you disregard the warning and you put it up, you will get a community strike. Now, we found that out from Humble Hermit and the other guy, the podcast that I was on. You get those little warning tags now, and those warning tags are to tell you to stop doing whatever you're putting up on your screen. And there's a lot of things that we have to start looking at. I think the question today was asked by Mgtow Values about the chat and what you have to do to moderate your chat. Can you be held responsible for what people say in your chat? Yes, I think you can now be held responsible. That's one of the things that they will start. And it's always good to start looking at those things because they're ending the OBS streaming, so you can't stream from Twitch on the YouTube. They're ending the OBS, the streaming from YouTube channel, the YouTube channel, and they're with OBS too. I've even looked into it, and they'll even give you a community strike for doing a test podcast. You get a test podcast and it goes wrong. you get a community strike and you can no longer podcast on YouTube. So with your intentions, you can't let what I really think they're trying to do is they're saying, hey, we're expending a lot of space for duplicate copies, like of podcasts, like SFM was doing. He was putting it on his. When you duplicate a podcast from this podcast, it's not my property. This is not my property here. Although they say it's your property, it becomes a property of YouTube, and then you're using YouTube to duplicate the copy. You will get and that's that's the way they pretty much hold it. Like when, say, when Shangy or I can't remember that other guy's the monk, Cybermonk, when he puts that stuff up, you got to do it in segments, and you got to take it down. And then, because it's all a bot, the bot is going to send you a warning and say, if you keep doing this on your channel, you will get a copyright strike, and you will get a community strike with that. And community strikes and copyright strikes are kind of seen as the same thing by YouTube now. If you're disobeying what they're saying they're giving you a warning to take that down. But I think what SFM did, he was OBSing it, and he disregarded the warnings because he was talking over here, because I seen the two SFMs up, and that's usually when you split stream. When you start split streaming, I have split streamer, but I disable it so I don't get a copyright strike. And that, I think that was your question, Prune Juice Power. Is SFM mad at me? I don't see what a reason would be to be mad at me. It wasn't my fault, and I didn't give him a copyright strike. And if he made a mistake with that kind of, hey, it wasn't my fault. And if you would have asked me beforehand, is it okay to split stream this? I would have said it's at your risk, and you have to watch for the warnings. Now, if YouTube picks that up and they see that you're OBSing a split stream over to another station, they're going to give you a community strike for that now, because you're wasting their space. And I think their big thing is, now that there's so many billions of people, they don't have enough space in them computers anymore. They're running out of space unless they can come out with a lot more space that they have. I think that point of they're trying to get rid of a lot of old videos, and they're trying to get rid of a lot of people. And I think it's because they see this thing coming to an end where they continuously they can continuously let people use their space for free. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Maybe it's a business decision. I don't know. It's not my business. But there will be rules coming down the road now for even chat. You know that the chat is part of the video now. It's brought up with the video. So whatever's said on that chat, you can be held responsible for a community strike. And I would say, watch your language, watch your tone, watch your violent speech, and all that, because I could probably get a community strike now for that. Be in my chat area if I don't disable it, and people don't use common sense. They'll start holding the producers responsible for even their chat. And it's what do you call that? It's attrition. There's going to be attrition that's coming down the line here. And if you break a policy, everybody go, well, they hate us Mgtows and everything. But I think it's more of they're just running out of space, and they want to use attrition to start, weeding out. Corporations do it all the time. When there's a layoff coming, they'll just anybody that's late, anybody that's got stupid things to say, anybody that the rules will be tenfold here, and we're just going to weed out everybody by attrition. And I've gone through several jobs like that, and I'm such a pleasant cat, and I'm always on time. Then I just laugh at it like, but you'd be surprised how many people are stupid enough to they're stupid enough to do something while, someone just said, hey, we're going to start laying off by attrition, and the guy comes in late the next day. I've even seen that. And I'm like, what are you, stupid? That was delicious. I wish I could send you each one of those, but I can't through the internet. We don't have no delivery service, so I can't. And hello, Terrence Marine, Terrain Marine. Okay, trained Marine. I think I get it. Um, I hope you're all doing well today. We were talking about gender dynamics and political violence. We're talking about incels today, and we're talking about the risk of involving political statements and involving political talk within the Mgtow community, because once you involve yourself in politicalized ideas and you add the incels and they do a violent act, then you got an act that was committed with a political agenda. And that becomes what, guys? Terrorism. It becomes an act of terrorism, and then your group becomes flagged for being a hate group and a terrorist group. And I think that's something that we have to another one of those rules that we're going to have to get used to in here, and leave the politics. And it's always been that way in Mgtow. It's just we're men, and that's what we're arguing about. We're men, and we act like men. There's masculinity at risk here. Leave the politics at the door and leave all the bull at the door, and just talk about, let's talk about Mgtow. Let's talk about things like that, and leave all that garbage at the door, because them are the things that will get us in trouble, the garbage and the bull, especially in this politically charged atmosphere of YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, and all those. Hello, Magnus. How are you today? And there's Chewy's in, and everybody's pretty much in as usual. And there's Eli Mellis. I don't know if that's the real. I don't know if that's the real Eli, but welcome, Eli, and Derek, and everybody. I love all you guys, and thanks for stopping around and listen to me chat. You know why I'm doing a podcast? Because there's no podcast to listen to besides those expats, and those expats are the most boring guys. I think they're incels that just, I'm not sure what's wrong with those expats. Being an expat and complain, and they were talking political, and they're like, oh, Trumpisms and all that stuff, and I'm thinking, you guys expatriated, and now you want to talk about political stuff, and why don't you just come back? Then, as soon as you're expatriated, don't bother talking about it, because you've already made the ultimate act of leaving. But man, we were getting so many of those just find a good Filipino woman, and your life will be okay videos, and I was like, man, that stuff is boring. So I didn't want to listen to any more of that garbage. Expats, yes, Steve. Expats are TFLers in denial. They are, I think. But you can always go, and when I look at those expatriate, just go to the Philippines and do this, and then they say, well, everything's going to be great, but you're going to need. I've done the research. You're going to need $47,000 to do that. Yeah, you're going to have to pay, and then you have to pay your family, because they have for foreigners, it's different to marry, and then you're going to have to pay your family, and there's farm programs that run through that. Now, start looking at the political side of this thing. There's farm programs. There's a $7,000 fee for this, and there's a $20,000 fee for your SRRV, and that's Social Security, because you're not, if you're going to expatriate to their country, you're going to need to involve yourself in the Social Security program. You're not going to opt out. They're not going to let you opt out. So there's an immediate $20,000 cost in that. So there's a lot of things that they just don't tell you, or they intentionally, conveniently leave them out. And Yeah, Steve, we can get lunch someday. I'm not even sure if that's I think it's the real Steve with the guitar. I'm not really sure, but I don't. Yeah, we live so close. I was in your town the other day. I was driving. I drive through it almost every day. I go to Dave's, Dave's barbecue, and then there's a car wash down there. I go to. My son goes to, and he does the car wash thing there. And then what else is right in that little area right there? Dave's, if you guys ever eat at famous Dave's ribs, they're just wonderful. We love them. We love them a lot. And that's one of the best barbecues around. I think it's better than Bubba Baker's barbecue. But yeah, I'm always around Steve's part of town right there. And there's a few other things I go to in that area. Yeah, I'd buy you a beer. I would. But most of the time I hang around people that don't drink, so that's my problem. They're very religious individuals, and I'm the monk. I'm the kind of monk that drinks, but the individuals I go out to dinner with and everything are very religious, and they don't drink, and um, it offends their religion if you do. So that's that. The real Steve Hoka, huh? I don't know. It's hard to tell anymore, and I don't really care what people label themselves as anymore. Um, it's just not my concern. The anybody can, unless I get violent talk in the chat. Anybody can say what they want. Say what you want about me too. I don't care. Like it's hey. Uh, they want to ban the word no. Do they want to ban the word? Yeah, they're going to ban the word no, and we're out of business because Mgtow is based on no, stop, go. Now we can still do the stop, go, but if they ban the word no, we're screwed. We're just up a creek without a paddle there. I would meant to look that up the creek without a paddle. Who invented that term, that idiom? But I'll look it up someday and see exactly what that was. But today's topic was about gender violence during tumultuous periods and hegemonic masculinity. That's a big word, huh? Hegemonic masculinity. I always forget what that word means when I read it. I have to stop and then click over on it and hegemonic masculinity. When you start talking about hegemonic masculinity with feminists, they're the one that bring this up, and they're the one that bring that up, and they toss that out all the time. And I'm like, whoa, wait, don't hit me with some words like that, because I always forget what it means. But they're trying to link rape with death. Death and rape are the same things, and passive or receptive or masculine status or active, active in the process of the penetrating aggressor as the same as, rape is a form of, sexual intercourse, I suppose. And then they believe it's a form of genocide on females because it stops her it stops her choice and of what baby she's going to have, what baby that will look like, the sexual diversity of the baby is her choice. Yeah, so they believe that rape statistically in military is a military tactic during war, which Card said that in 1996, and I'm sure most people did, and most 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 wars they looked at it, well, yeah, there's some punishment that we can, if you're not going to treat the women like combatants, and you could, and you're certainly, you can bomb them or you can shoot at them and stuff like that. If you're not going to treat them in that way and you're going to try to preserve life in communal areas, then yeah, how do you effectively punish them? And that becomes an issue of rape most of the time, because you do two things: you take their agency and you seize control. And that's what you want in those situations. You seize control, and there's a forced impregnation to have their children, and everything. But there's some link between what's going on now and the incels, and they're concerned about that. And what am I concerned about that is that we Mgtows don't get included with the incels' violence, their tendencies to violence. And like I said, I'm not a guy that's not compassionate about their inability to procreate, and their inability to pass down their gene. There was some usually when someone's incel, the sexual diversity, it's just saying that the sexual diversity is off and they have a bad gene in there, and the women will not mate with them, and that's a sad thing. But they don't lose the desire to have. They don't lose the desire to pass on their traits genetically to which wouldn't be a good idea at that point. If they're incel and they do, why would they want to pass on their traits to a it's all about sex then, because you really don't want to pass on your traits if you're an intro. So if you're not chosen by the female and you're set there all alone, it must be either narcissism, and that's a mental illness, or it's just being passive aggressive, and that's a mental illness, and they want to pass their traits on through sexual violence or violence in itself. When there's no other way, they choose a physical brand of violence over we see this a lot with simps. The simps are pretty interesting to watch. They're very violent people, and most of the time they're TFLers and just wanting that girlfriend experience and have that girlfriend experience once in their life. Hey, I'm supportive of them and all, and I don't really. Like I said, I'm empathetic with their cause and everything. And if I was born like that, I would probably think the same way, as why can't I have what everybody else has in this world? But it does become a problem when violence and politics mix, because you see a lot of these incellers, they're just not saying that we deserve the P, we deserve the split V. What you're saying is nowadays is I'm a alt-righter, or I'm a Trumpite, and we're going to push this thing, and where someone's going to take care of my interests, and it becomes political at that point. And politicalized violence is terrorism. And sooner, the terrorism studies and focus on the identities and motives and roles of these individuals. That's what I was reading today, and consequently. There is only a small sample in these studies, too. We got the guy up in, we got Elliot Rogers, and we got the guy up in that you can identify as the incel. So we're working with a very small sample in this sociology that's being done to try to develop some kind of narrative research or approach to these individuals, and some kind of generalized theme or frame that you can look at the dangerous nature of this as. I don't think but when they look at it, they see that as being very insulting to them. If you're looking at if you're trying to frame that, and you're just like I'm doing now, I'm trying to frame it in my head so I can draw up some kind of analogy. And I think expatriation to these countries where they think they can get a Filipino girl that's above their status, and it would definitely take care of the chances of low sexual diversity, the cross sexual diversity where it's too low and they have retarded children like themselves, or but I can't imagine that even Filipino girls want to be, unless there's riches and someone takes care of their family and they're very subservient, and there's socio-economical gains and the ideology that goes along with a lot of the expatriates thinking. What they're thinking is the female, there's socioeconomic gains to be had, and there's an ideology of more of a traditional based family where she's going to cook, she's going to clean, she's going to go out and work, she's going to, do all those things while you're toiling with your work or whatever you do. And there's motives inside these things. And I think what's interesting in Mgtow is sometimes we say the motives, and that's Joe's paradox. When you say the motive and you say, well, that's a little bit of simpishness, buddy, and they'll go, simps don't like to be called simps, and they will lash out at you, and the people that buy a woman in that sort of sense, when you buy her and her identity and her agency is not no longer intact, what you're talking about is simple prostitution for money so she can take care of her family and everything. So there's some, it gets all jumbled and everything, and the whole thing kind of works from what we see in our country down to how to fix a problem that we have. And we have to think about our own country and argue from sort of a general normative sort of way, a gender normative sort of way, and the gender dynamics that's involved in these things. You have to look at that. You have to look at beliefs, and you have to look at a lot of things. But I think it's interesting. I think someone has to write a paper on it sooner or later and kind of quantify it. I don't know who that person is, and if it's a male, female team that can do this thing, that can do that thing without any gender biases towards either, matriarchy or male thinking, patriarchy. But that's not. I don't know if that's in the works right now, because the gender dynamics is so unfluent now and is so volatile. How can you get an unbiased paper written by two people that are different ends of the spectrum about how to deal with the less than beta males? So that's what we talk about a lot around here. We talk about these sort of things. It'd be interesting for him just to kind of sit in and see there's Dougie. Dougie's been outside all day. It's 62 and kind of cool here today. And so how likely are you to remember Microsoft Edge just asked me how likely I was to recommend Microsoft Edge, and I wouldn't, not for this kind of process. You have to have Google Chrome and everything. So Dougie wants to come in, and he's doing a bark because he wants another. He knows I bought a whole case of Mighty Dogs for him today, and he knows the whole case of Mighty Dogs are in there. And hello, Riff Mangoes, my buddy Riff. Hey, did you see that Gambler Strings and that young autistic kid that plays the thing I sent you today? That kid's great. I love that kid, but he only gets like 1,000 views on his videos, and I think YouTube is so unfair because that kid's great. Trav's Coffee Fun. I ran out of coffee last night or yesterday afternoon, and I ran out of coffee, and I didn't get to the store till like late this afternoon, where I bought a big bag of coffee, and I usually like to order mine and do my coffee, and I was like, man, it was the first time in like 10 years I ran out of coffee. It was like, oh, well, this sucks bad. Dougie eats better than me. Dougie does eat pretty good. He likes his cans. I buy Alpo for him, and I switch them between Alpo and Mighty Dog. And sometimes I buy those Benefuls, but I never, the Beneful and the thing, the good one, that's at like $1.68. It has the vegetables and the stuff in it, and he likes those things. But I never, if he gets used to them, then I'll end up buying those things all the time, and it'll be like having a teenage kid around that wants to eat macaroni and cheese all day. Why doesn't the janitor guy get himself a fat grub job and maybe a side gig buffing floors. I don't know who the janitor guy is. I do, but yeah, the janitor. Oh no, I wanted to try to explain that to to him, but he sent me a nasty message. Why does it matter that what job a guy's work? It doesn't matter what job a guy does at work. I say I respect all working people. I just respect the shit out of them. When I go to the store and even the cash register ladies, and I always make it a my buddy, he hates it when I do it because I'll make a scene when I'm leaving and I'll go, "Hey, thank you guys for, serving me with such, dignity and thanks for showing up," and stuff like that. And I always make a scene when I walk out of restaurants and like, because I think it's important to show your appreciation for how our society works, and these people are great. And I was working class for all my life. Maybe, packing oil and stuff. People think I'm just a greasy oil packer. So I had to deal with the same bigotry. And an electrician, I'm a blue collar guy, in an oil manufacturing company. And the girls, I'd walk into there and they're like, "Oh, it's one of those blue collar workers. He got oil all over him and dirt." And just comes, I was more educated than them, and I would go rage out on them once in a while, say, "I don't even know why you're making what you're making, because I got I'm highly educated, and you guys have a 90-day degree in accounting, boy." But yeah, have a little respect. Never shame working people. Yeah, I think Tucker Carlson did that the other day. He was shaming the working people, and then it's like, yeah, keep shaming those people. Fight Club, you'll get spit in your your soup, just like in Fight Club. I think I don't know. I think Tucker Carlson, the way he talks about the working class, he's probably drinking about 5-6 gallons of spit in his life. That's like, yeah, just keep talking about those people like that. You don't think when he walks into a McDonald's or a restaurant, those people look at him and go, "Man, uh, you know, I mean, he just insulted the shit out of us for years, and now I got my chance." Right? But no, always be pleasant, and a modicum of respect. Just a you have it. There's an average amount of respect you give every person in this world. I don't care what gender they are. Like, I always give the example of Jill, the sandwich girl. I go up there a lot and I get my Subway sandwich, and I'm nice and I'm pleasant, and the chicken girls, and I do the chicken girls nice and pleasant, and I smile and I tell them what great work they're doing, because they always and if I do that, they always put another piece of chicken. If I order a 3, they'll put 4 in there. If I order 3 tenders, I get 4 tenders. Then that's the result of being nice to everybody. Because I like getting an extra chicken tender in my chicken 3-pack tender pack. And that's just, that's how it works in life. And then what you're really saying is you have self-dignity and self-respect for yourself when you do that. So common decency, yeah, common decency isn't so common these days. Yeah, it's not. No, you should have common decency, and that's what we were talking about early with the homeless people. There's a certain amount of violence in the poor that are being perpetrated on these people by our government. When you take somebody's ability to financially take care of themselves, and they're at the lowest level, and you start treating them like that, there's a certain amount of violence that the government is perpetrating on them. And there's a certain amount of not dignity and everything. And I think we can cure about any problem in our society, and that's one of the problems that ain't getting cured, because these people don't have a certain amount of dignity, and that tells you how they think about the poor. That tells you how they think about the middle class, and between the poor and middle class and the upper poor, and they think of you like dirt, and I think that's telltale. why these problems. There's such a minimal amount of money that goes into the homeless problem. We spend more on bombs every week, and we spend more to bomb people every week. That's so sad. That's like a than we spend on the people that are paying for it. It's like our society. God, we suck. I'm just so embarrassed to be an American these days. Uh, I think that was, I looked at that problem once when we fired all those missiles at that air base, and they were saying, oh, each one of these missiles were $2.5 million, and this whole excursion cost us like, and then I was thinking, oh God, we just spent $1 billion on, on missiles, and one of our planes got shot down, and that was a million, almost $1 billion thing, and I was like, we spend more on bombing like in a week than we did on our homeless problem. But yeah, it's almost palms down moment. It's like I think we need a restart. Tech help. I think we need tech help, but we're not getting tech help. If that was true, we need the tech help, tech support. So I want to say hello to everybody today, and I didn't want to. I came on, and I was like, "There's going to be someone talking about Mgtow," and I could just sit back and listen and do my joking and everything, and be a part of the thread and the chats. And there was nobody. There was just those expat guys, and they're so weird. They're like, you just go get a Filipino girl, and then you can make her into a low class slave. And it's like, is that what you want in life? Someone that's going to stab you at night? I had one of those, and she tried to kill me, and I didn't like that. That was no good. I'm not going to do that again. And yeah, I had one, and didn't work out. You can have mine. You can have 3 of them if you want, but they always have political things to say too, which I think is so hypocritical of expats. Don't talk about politics if you're an expatriate. What do you care? You left. You didn't want to stick out for the fight. You left. So don't talk about politics, you ass. That's one of the most political things. eBay brides make me lift an eyebrow. eBay brides. Are there such thing as eBay brides? I have to check into that. I'm not big on the sites. But once in a while, I have to go cruise around the internet and see all the deplorable things that are going on, and so I can be a bridge to them. That's delicious. So I just wanted to come on and talk for a while, and because nobody else was having a hangout, and I was bored, and I was so sick of stealing movies. I just steal movies at night, and I was like, most of them are matriarchal movies about strong girls, anyways, and the percentage of you used to have horror and sci-fi and maybe in sports movie once in a while, and exciting spy movies and all those things. The percentage of those movies like The Notebook, their chick flicks, has risen like at least 60% now. Oh, hello, Gravy Back. Hello, Trim. SFM is the janitor. He's way too smart for that. He's in IT. Yeah, SFM is in IT, and he taught me how to put this together here, by the way, which I really appreciate. And he didn't teach me. He kind of showed me kind of the way to do it. And then I'm an electrician, so I was like, oh, I see. And I thought it was going to be difficult and everything to put your own computer together and do that A studies and everything in computer putting together, but it was kind of easy. And I thought, well, Jesus, if most people knew that, they'd build their own. And but I like my computer. Do you guys ever see? I don't know if I've ever showed you guys my computer. It's got lights and it's got inside lights and stuff. It's great. I just like it. And I'm dumping all my stuff all around and everything, and getting everything. One day I will have my study room back again, but that doesn't look like it's going to happen right now. I'm just too lazy to remove all the beds in the room that I want to make into my office and carry them out to the garage and get rid of them. That would be a devastating. It's just devastating for me, and I just don't want to do that. So I keep moving around the house and do this. That's too bright. That's way too bright. So this was the Traversable Mgtow show on gender dynamics and political violence and Mgtow and how they blend. And I don't want to go on forever here because I'm rambling now. And my concern is that the incels will drag Mgtow into a lowly position of being called a terrorist if they keep their violent acts going. And I think that they're calling out for a politicalized version of how they can fulfill those things of sexual nature, and that's not going to happen short of a fantasy fiction book called A Brave New World, and they give out soma, and they everybody holds hands and screams out orgy porgy orgy porgy. It's just not going to happen. But I know that's that world that world that everybody dreams of. It's like, this perfect world. They got drugs and sex, and they breed their children inside of little tubes, and then they just pop them out, and girls don't have to go through that anymore. And yeah, that's an idealized world, but the problems with an idealized world, as we've seen at the end, is with John's suicide and Bernard bringing him to a new country and everything like that. The subject on that was did Bernard have the right, and what did Bernard see after he brought John and Lena to that country? And Lena was, they started acting like a normal woman, and John was so shocked at the culture that he hung himself while the crowd chanted orgy porgy orgy porgy. It was a horrible scene when you read it. But it gives us kind of things to think about. And that's about it. That's about all I want to talk today. And that's about all I want to say today. Short of an idealized society, what do we do with the incels? Dougie's Benefil fun. Benefils, if you get him addicted on Benefil, then I'll have to buy Benefil every time instead of Mighty Dog. He likes the Benefil. I get him the ones, the $1.68 cans, the big ones that they have up front with the special vegetables and everything. And he likes those, but I don't want to get him addicted to them because he's so passive aggressive. He really is. He is so passive aggressive. He'll look at me and do bad things if I don't give him what he wants. Someone threw Dougie in rehab fund. I think he's gonna need cans. I'm addicted to cans and the little pull open cartridges of the good stuff. He's gonna be out in the corner buying some other dog's gonna be, is this what you're looking for? He's like, yeah, I'm addicted. That's too funny. But Dougie does have he has an individual personality that's really crazy. I was going to show some of the footage that I got on Dougie doing Dougie things, and you'll be like, oh, that dog is just nuts. But I love my Dougie. I rescued Dougie from the world. Dougie was chained in back of a house, and he had fleas and ticks. And I was looking for a new dog. I was looking for a hunting dog, actually, so I can continue going hunting. But I ended up with a Doug, and he hunts cans. He doesn't hunt game. He hunts cans. And that's telling. Dougie is a wolf. He is a wolf. He thinks he's a wolf. I tell him he's a wolf too. I keep his because he was so beat up. You should have seen him when he first came here. He was so beat up. I like to inspire him and tell him you're part of the wolf gang and you're big and you're bad. And we do the thing when we fight over his bunny. He's got a humping bunny, and he's got a humping bunny, and he's got a play tiger, and then he's got his pee-pee bunny. And all three things, when he comes up to him, mean different things. If he brings the pee-pee bunny to you, it means he wants to go outside. If sex bunny it's about this big, and he carries it around and he lays with it and everything, but he'll fight with it too. If I grab it, he'll be like coming at me, and he'll grab it, and I always let go and let him think that he won the tug of war, and then that inflates his head. He's like, yeah, don't screw with me, Joe. Oh yeah, so I inflate his ego, and I think he deserves it in life because he went through hell. Dogs are man's best friend. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, dogs are man's best friend. I like dogs. I've always had a dog. I've always been really good with training dogs too. A lot of people can't understand. If I take a dog hunting, it's going to know how to hunt in a few times. And I'm not going to screw around with all the hunting courses and everything. I'm just going to teach the dog how to hunt. And so I'm really good at that. And I'm really good at teaching them how to play ball and frisbee and not bite people, and and letting them off, so he can run around and be, have a happy life. Yeah, Dougie, he has a problem with bringing his sex bunny. He likes his sex bunny, and he puts it up on my my bed. And then I come in at night and I look at it, and I'm like, no. And I'll throw it out the door. And then he gets kind of passive aggressively. He's like, hey, you could use that. He cucks. Dougie's a cuck. He wants to cuck his sex bunny with me. He's like, we could share that. And I'm like, no, I think it's disgusting. Dogs are funny. So he leaves a couple of them up on my bed. He leaves a play giraffe. He's got a play giraffe. It's a little giraffe. And I have to buy him a new variety of stuffed animals pretty soon because they're getting rather nasty. I've washed them about 10 times. And they get really nasty, but he likes them nasty because he likes that smell. Now, play giraffe's been outside for about a week in the rain now, and I think it's gone. He's gonna, and I have some new ones in the back. I just want to introduce him to him slowly so he can. He doesn't get freaked out about the new residences in the house, which are stuffed animals. Now, that's a measurement with the uncanny valley. I was thinking about the uncanny valley. That's when you can look at a dead person and know that it's dead. You can look at a sex robot and know that it's a lifeless robot. And that's the thing that most people can't get over, the uncanny valley. And Dougie looks at his bunnies. And this is my determination of lizard people, too. If you can't tell when something's dead, like a lizard doesn't know the difference between a cold bottle and if it moves and he thinks it's alive. He can't determine because he's cold-blooded, he can't determine whether it's alive or not, if it's warm to him it seems alive, or if it moves it seems alive. But he can't look at something and go, that's alive. And that's the uncanny valley. There's a difference between, and Dougie has that problem too. He doesn't know that his stuffed animals are, he thinks that they're these vivid creatures in his fantasy world. And it's like, yeah, there's a difference there, Doug's. And I think it's just so funny to watch and try to analyze these things. And when he does, I might sit there and sometimes I just sit for hours just drinking my coffee and eating some popcorn and watching Dougie because he has such bizarre behavior. And you can learn a lot from a dog. It's like, I'm psychoanalyzing him. It's better than having a female in here and having to psychoanalyze that, because that's just not going to work. Trying to psychoanalyze a partner, a gender partner, is just like, it's so futile. It's just so futile. I did that for years and tried to make that work. But that's about it. And I thank everybody for coming around. It's a Thursday. What is it? It's Wednesday night. It's a Wednesday night. I should have known that because I did do some things today that was Wednesday oriented, and I just forget it now. I'm getting old. I'm not expected to know what day of week it is when you get old. Yeah, and I'm a hippie. We were discussing today whether I was a hippie or not, and you could take the hippie out of the commune and force them to be in society, but you could never take the hippie out of the person. And I'm coming to grips with that in my life, that, yeah, you see this, I got long hair, long flowing locks of blonde hair, and, and a beard. I'm a hippie. We did go to an interesting hippie store today. It was, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Little Donuts. It has a hippie motif, and then they got these little donuts and they dunk them in sugary stuff for you, and then they make you a cappuccino. And that's what I was there for, the coffee, because I ran out of coffee, and so I went there to get a cup of coffee, and they had little donuts, and it's like they're really expensive too. The little donuts in this sort of, and I thought, I got to my seat and I thought, like, I'm a hippie, and culturally, it's a Little Donuts is a what do you call those, franchise, and they culturally appropriated my what I am. And I started telling that to the lady. I was like, lady, this is a hippie place, and I'm going to get outside and I'm going to be picketing because you culturally appropriated my hippiness. And I thought it was funny, but they didn't get it. And they didn't get it. They didn't want to hear it. It's like, that's what hippies do. They protest. It's like weird. It's a weird world we live in. Old song night. Oh, yeah. So I'm about to wrap this thing up. I could talk for hours, but I really don't feel like it. I want to go steal a movie, and I'm going to go steal the best movie out there, and do my thing, and probably sit back and enjoy the evening and have a cup of coffee. Finally, I bought some coffee today, so I have my own now, and I can make coffee the way Joe wants it, and do that, and then Trev to the left of me, simpers to the right of me. Here I am stuck in the manosphere. Yeah, there's simpers to the rest of us, and righties and lefties to the right, and there's all sorts of people around us, and we're stuck in the manosphere together. And that's what this thing's about here, just kind of finding a place you're comfortable with, and you guys can talk in the chat, and you don't have to listen to my excessive blathering on about about wouldn't the world be wonderful if everybody got along. Yeah, happy joy stuff like Ren and Skimpy. Happy joy, happy joy. No, I know world's not like that, but I try to get along and everything, and I try to do my part and not making it so rough on everybody else. I guess if we all did our part, and we wouldn't have homelessness, we wouldn't have poverty, we wouldn't have we wouldn't have wars or violence, and we can figure out this gender dynamics things and what's the true replacement rate, which I know it is. It's 0.68. It is. It's 0.68, the replacement rate, and we can figure that out, and we can designate who can mate, and then we can sterilize the rest of the people, and then they can do whatever they want after that, and then we'll buy them sex dolls or whatever. And that's Dougie out there. He's really starting to go nuts, and I wish it was a world that we could figure out, but unfortunately, that'll take many generations after me. I suppose I would like to have this thing figured out by the time I die, so I don't pass it down to my grandchildren. Hey, Doug's. So with that, I'm going to wrap this up, and I'd like to say thanks a lot to each and every person that came in here, and you like usual and like normal. Mgtow wouldn't be Mgtow without each and every one of you guys. And he's being a real pain in my ass now. Yeah, you hear him? See how passive aggressive he is when he wants something? And Mgtow wouldn't be Mgtow with all of us. And I think we could push this thing through and make Mgtow a better place if we just, don't take things so seriously. Get rid of the politics, the religion, and all the bullshit. And we could just have a great community. And with that, I'm going to let you guys go. And thanks for being Mgtow. And I'm going to go take care of Dougie's. Thanks a lot, guys.